All right, it's starting to sound like y'all have come up with ideas. So I'm going to switch to a Word document, and we are going to let you guys tell me what are the IoTs. Maybe if it'll let me type here. You can't make this change because the selection is long. Plan B. All right. All right, and we still got the risk and the benefit of each of these things. So, all right.
All right. So I've got a special case of a self-driving car.
All right.
I'd like to connect to the internet.
Self-driving car, okay.
I want to connect it to the internet because I'd like to be able to receive up-to-date map data and also, if possible, street sign data, because I don't want to have to trust that my classifier is going to be able to read these 100% of the time. If I can say, know where all the street signs are, I don't even have to take a picture.
Perfect. All right, so the benefit of map data, street sign data is you've got better information for doing decisions. What is the risk of that self-driving car?
The risk is that someone's going to spook the server and they're going to tell you that there is a 90-mile-an-hour sign when there should be a stop sign.
Right, so you could die.
Yeah.
It could happen, right? We have actually seen that with some Jeeps that are connected to the internet. People hacked into them and turned the brakes on. Tesla, within the last year, had some issues where the app on your phone that you use to unlock your car, because who needs keys anymore when I have an app for that, quit working, right? Connected to the internet, all of a sudden, I think AWS went down at some level. It was relying on AWS technologies, and for a couple of hours, people could not get into their Teslas, right? Welcome to the $100,000 car you just bought that's now not worth anything.
Let's have people stand up when they talk.
Sure.
Change pretty well, but
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
On the same self-driving car note,
Yep.
I believe Teslas they connect to the internet to send driving data so they can train their machine learning and AI for better self-driving cars. So same note as what he said, but.
So the benefit is Tesla gets better information related to driving. What is the risk of that?
Basically, all of your locational data could be stolen, which probably would not be very good.
All location data stolen. So as a consumer, you have some privacy risks that you are inherently giving up, right? We've seen the same sort of things with, how many of you seen Progressive? Progressive has a little thing they want you to plug into your car to get better insurance rates. Why? So they can be sent decisions that you are making, like how fast you accelerate, how do you slam on your brakes, different things that might indicate whether you're, an old man driver like me or a crazy driver like my teenage son, right? Differences in driving behavior indicate different risk factors for insurance companies that ultimately define policy premiums and various different things like that. I have never signed up for an app like that because I really don't like the idea that my insurance company is monitoring my driving behaviors. As someone who's pays attention to privacy and does some research in that space, I'm really, really uncomfortable with that. I know other people who are like, it's going to save me 25 bucks. I'm in, right? Go ahead. I'm a great driver. I should save some money because of that, right? It's a trade-off of that benefit versus that risk and how you value those things. All right, other Internet of Things stuff that people have come up with. Yeah, go ahead and stand up.
You can get like a thermostat that'll check the weather and like change your temperature accordingly. So it's like smart.
Yep, that controls temperature based on forecast.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then if you have like no internet, then it becomes kind of useless.
All right. So the risk is lack of internet. It's not any good. Well, and the benefit is?
I mean, it like saves you power. Like,
Okay. So power savings.
More efficient.
Yep. All right. Go ahead. Good job. Let me ask some fish. Can I spell?
Lack of internet? I don't know. I think the higher risk is that someone's going to be tricking you alive in your house.
All right. So outsiders take control of your temperature, perhaps? Right, this is, well, this came up in a class we were talking about toaster ovens, right? You can connect toasters to the internet. There was actually a hack that people did that were able to set people's toasters on fire in this very way, right? Where they hack in and they mess with some settings, and all of a sudden you've got these internal fires. Yeah.
How about just a way into their internet to access their security system through that?
Right,
We were
so
talking about it previously.
access to the internet inside someone's house. Okay, gives you a vector point into what's going on, and then potentially gaining access to anything else that's going on that network, right? Once you get inside, depending on the level of access you have, you can set up and do all sorts of things. Other Internet of Things ideas you all came up with. Yeah, back here.
So we went with like an industrial IoT. So the idea is like sensors in manufacturing plants and different industries that need like temperature sensors, flow sensors, and the risk is that it's a huge security risk. Having hundreds, if not thousands, of these sensors connected to a private cloud, it allows bad actors a bunch of different ways to get in. And the benefit is obviously like remote monitoring of these locations. And yeah.
Cool. The remote monitoring location makes it really nice to have central controls. They can keep an eye on everything, and it could be anywhere in the world. But the security risk is bad actors could get that same information, same data, but they could also potentially get in and, maybe they mess with your manufacturing routine, right? Even changing something just a little bit, if you're building something to very tight specifications, can be a pretty big problem. Or worse, shutting things down, ransomware, right? This sort of thing, someone gets in and they lock everything down and they say, we'll decrypt that for you for a certain amount of money. We're starting to see that show up more and more often as we connect things to the internet. Yeah.
Tony Stark glasses. So
Tony Stark
with
glasses.
the internet, you can see really cool specs and everything, but the enemy can also see whatever you're doing.
All right. So the benefit is what?
Really, it's general.
Enhanced vision.
Enhanced vision, yeah, you can do searches just by looking at things, increase knowledge, something like that.
Sure. So Google Glass basically sorts of things. But the risk is others can see everything. Here's one of the things that I remember from when the Google Glass first came out that drove a lot of people crazy is there are certain places where others have an expectation of privacy, where they aren't going to have all the things recorded and captured. Like, let's say you're at a bar, at a club or whatever, right? Pulling out your camera and recording everything that's going on in those environments. Generally, if you pull out that phone, right, security is going to see, like, we don't allow that, right? We're going to let people have a good time, and we're not going to, live stream that on a TikTok or whatever the thing might be. But if I've got glasses on and I have some way of covering up the little light to tell people it's recording, I can actually record things where the other parties involved have no clue that that's going on, right? So you also have some risk of others' information being captured in ways that they are not expecting or are privy to.
Yeah, so Google Glass is not allowed on military bases.
Exactly. Another one, and this is another Internet of Things, is it wasn't Map My Run, but it was one of those apps like Map My Run, that there were locations that were not known map places where a lot of runs were being happened. And it was on these military locations where they're supposed to be secret. And it was the data captured from these exercise apps where people would go out for a run that gave away almost classified information of locations. Yeah. Baby monitors, yes, because anytime I'm at work, I should be able to turn on that baby monitor and see what's going on with my little person, right? I've got to work, but they're at home and I miss them. Great benefit. What could go wrong with that?
They can know your schedule, how.
I got really bad risk for a baby monitor.
Yeah.
You as traffickers know when you're not home.
Yep. Traffickers, no schedule. Say bad things to the kids. I've heard of those horror stories, right? Where someone hacks in and all of a sudden the speaker is talking in terrible ways. I'm actually, you know, I'm kind of glad I raised my kids where I didn't have these technologies, because I would have thought it was kind of cool and I probably would have had one.
They can save lives.
Yep.
So they have, sensor contact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, huge benefits, but again, trade-offs with risks. I saw a hand here and then I'll come here. Did you have something you're gonna add?
So when I was in the military at the time, it was Strava.
Yeah, Strava, that was, yeah, yep.
They still have geo, I just looked it up, they still have geo maps.
Uh-huh.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, did the military crack down on that for a little while when I came up? So that was kind of a big, oh, wow, we got this great Internet of Things device, and all of a sudden the military's like, we don't like that so much. But again, we're going to continue to see those sorts of things happen, because, you know, what happens when you get a great new app, great new tracking on your iPhone, whether it's the glasses, whether it's the watch, whether it's the AirPods. My latest favorite one is the AirTag, right? That Apple, I mean, it's great. My 20-year-old son's home from college, and we went and had some fun this weekend. And yesterday he says, "Dad, I can't find my wallet." Turned out it was under his bed, and he looked forever, and, you know, it wasn't anywhere bad. But we were retracing all the places we had been and calling people and trying to find out, you know, has anyone found his wallet? And I suggest to him, maybe if you had an AirTag in your wallet, this would be a super easy thing to find. And he's very much a conspiracy theorist and thinks that having anything to track you is bad, so he doesn't like that idea, right? But it's that trade-off. Do I know where my wallet is? You know, and he loses his wallet all the time. So his girlfriend's trying to convince him that it's not a bad idea. But we've also seen with the those AirTags is people are putting them on other people's cars and using them to be creepoids, right? And track people where they're going with this technology that Apple made super easy. Yeah.
So I know that if an AirTag is not registered to your device follows you for a certain amount of time, it will let you know.
Uh-huh.
But from what I saw from those timeframes, it's really not sorted out.
Right. So Apple is, at first, Apple was terrible with how they let you know these things. They are trying to get better. I don't think it's perfect, right? So they're trying to balance the benefit, the balance of the benefit with the risk. And I don't know they've completely dialed it in. Yeah. Yeah.
You're an Android person, you've got an AirTag phone.
Absolutely, right? And this is going to get to another issue we're going to talk about today, which is compatibility between devices. And Android and Apple is one of the great examples of two people that don't play nicely with each other, right? iMessage, right? You get a green text box or you get a blue text box when you talk to them. Yeah.
What about, we only put AirTags on things that are valuable, right? Our cars, our keys, our wallets, you know, so if somebody was able to find the location, it has the name. Oh, my wallet is right here. My car is right here.
Exactly. You're telling the world what is that thing if they can find it to track. Absolutely. Yeah.
As far as the IoT stuff's concerned, maybe monitors are scary enough. Just from the human intelligence perspective, you know, if you want into a bank, you just go to the manager's house and you're like, "You got a beautiful child." You know, it would be a shame if something were to happen and then you hand him a stick drive and you're like, "Make sure nothing happens there," and then he plugs it into his computer.
Yeah, right. I mean, there are all sorts of avenues that this information can be used for. So what we're seeing, right, is that Internet of Things has benefits, right? There's some great things we can do, but with these benefits, oftentimes comes risks. So one of the issues in all this is the user component. A common factor that we use to motivate research and look at things is that the user is often the weakest link in security, right? Decisions users make can circumvent even the best security plans you put in place. So building on what we've just done, get with your groups again and think about what threats do users cause, come up with 2 or 3, and what could be done to help mitigate the threats posed by those users. So take a few minutes, brainstorm some ideas.
Yeah, even if the missing that's like, even if the success rate.
If you want to actually. If you're not you're not wise.
All right, let's go ahead and bring it back in. All right, we'll go back over here and create a new section in this. All right, so threats caused by users and how to mitigate. All right, so let me pick on people maybe I haven't heard from yet. Anybody who did not give me an idea last time that have something they want to share? Yeah.
Accessing public networks.
Okay, so our users, okay, go ahead and stand up. Say that again real quick.
Accessing public networks.
Okay, so our users could access public networks such as.
It's a WSU campus network.
Okay.
It's open, so anybody can get into your system if you're connected with that. It's very easy to hack those systems.
Okay. So our users, they have access to public networks, and as such, they could use them in ways that they should not. Okay, how do we mitigate that?
We should actually not use open public networks.
Okay, so I should not use WSU's network when I'm here?
Use the one where you have credentials.
Ah, so use the actual credentialed one, not the guest network. So when I go to the CTAC, go ahead and sit down. When I go to the CTAC airport, I shouldn't use that free Wi-Fi that they give me?
Not you should. But that's the
No, I should struggle with downloading my Netflix movies over my.
Yeah, better way to do it.
I'll turn on VPN. There we go. We can use VPN, right? We can use the phone's internet, depending on how many other people are using LTE in the airport at the same time. Right? So I oftentimes, especially if I'm doing work stuff and I'm traveling, I use my phone's Wi-Fi hotspot because I feel safer with that than using the open CTAC network, right? I'm checking WSU emails, I'm putting in students' grades, I'm, going to Workday to do whatever I have to do at WSU. So I'll do that, and I will turn on the VPN. I do both of them, and thankfully I've got enough Wi-Fi hotspot data that's never been an issue. But yeah, potential issues accessing public networks. Other ideas, threats caused by users. Bernie.
I'll say one. We were overseas, so in some countries, WeChat is very much used, but all of it is monitored. So I don't know if you use a VPN, if it's secure or not, if somebody knows. Yes.
Depends on the endpoint. It really does. So when a government in that sense, whether it's, whether you're in Polynesia, Iran, whatever, they go to the vendor. They don't have access to the US servers, they have access to the Iranian servers. So it'll be like if you ever tried to log into Netflix using a VPN, you ever gone to like Korea or something, right? The shows are different because the offerings of shows are different in that country. And like Facebook, well, that's a bad example. Not Facebook, because that's all centralized. If you get access in the States here, you get access to everything. There's only servers in the States. But in that case specifically, if the server is in a foreign country, that's different. If the server's over here, it's a different kind of threat depending on what you're trying to do. That's what I'm do.
What I mean with VPN is that.
You have to select a server and make sure the server's here in the States.
Okay.
So that's one thing. There are other social networking apps that actually provide end-to-end encryption, right? Which are oftentimes outlawed in countries that want to monitor behavior, because if it starts encrypted on my computer or my phone and it's not decrypted until it's the other person's, people in the middle can't read it. For example, as well, related to this, that's happened in Russia, right? So some people in Russia are pro-Ukraine and some people in Russia are anti-Ukraine. The Russian police were authorized to be able to ask you for your device, you had no choice but to show them, and they would look through your messages to see if you had any pro-Ukrainian messages on your phone. And if you did, you could be detained, arrested, and life would suck for a while. All through the use of these social messaging apps. So I know people in China and other sorts of places that get creative ways so they can access information they don't want the government to see that they're accessing. So yeah, VPNs is a big one. We saw this a lot during the Olympics, right? That our Olympic athletes were told not to take their phones with them because nothing they were going to do on their phone was going to be secure communications. As we travel, I'm not sure if you've had to deal with this, Bernie, but oftentimes you're encouraged to take a device that is not your normal device that can then be wiped clean when you get back, when you travel to certain countries. And the university can help you to know what those countries are and to find those sorts of devices. Other things that users do. Yeah.
Like malicious email attachments. If you're on your work computer and you have over 100 emails and you're tired, so you just click and download, and then all of a sudden, someone's in the corporate network.
All right, so malicious email attachments. I click on it and thank you. I click on it and I'm infected. How often do you think this happens with users? All the time. What can we do to mitigate that, right? Don't do it. It's bad.
Tell them what not to click.
All right, don't do it. It's bad. So we're going to educate them. How well does that work?
Not great.
Not great. It's for some people, but when you get overwhelmed, things happen. Yeah.
I knew some people with the Army. They were database managers. They had to deal with this a lot, and it was to the point where it was so hard to deal with. They actually had a dedicated server to parse these files and look for malicious code in there, macros and stuff like that, and then have it be sent back, clean, sterilized.
So we can put in technology to scan our email system, so we never give the user a chance to click on that link. Does WSU do anything like that? Real quick.
Yes.
What's it called?
That's the URL protection.
URL defense, right? So if you get an email, especially from an external place that has an attachment or has a link in it, right? It will basically run it through URL defense when you click on it, and it will check to make sure it's not going to take you to a bad place. They also scan all the attachments. I've actually been in some real-time meetings with some colleagues at other universities on Zoom, where the Word document that we're working on gets sent out via email, and everyone else on the team has it, and it's like 10 minutes later before I get it, because I'm pretty sure WSU is spending some time making sure that that file is not malicious, right? Basically trying to take that decision out of the user's hands of whether or not they should open this, do they trust it, and so forth. So technology to offset users, is it perfect? No, but it helps. Yeah.
That reminds me, we actually block certain files as well. You cannot send a .py file over email and WSU.
Yeah, there are certain extensions that they will not allow. Macro-enabled Excel spreadsheets as well. macros are bad. Oftentimes that's one of the ways that bad things happen. Yeah.
Just yesterday, the speaker gave a way to check this. You can get the hash of the file and compare it on that website, the virus total, and check if it has malicious content or if it's been known to have malicious content.
Sure, absolutely. And that sort of thing, when you talk about technology to scan, that's what that's automating, is because most of your users aren't going to know, how do I get the hash from this particular file? And then how do I go to this website and how do I scan it? How many of you are familiar with abuse at wsu.edu? If you ever get a spam email, something you think is suspect, you can forward that message to abuse@wsu.edu, and they will say, oh, thank you for sending that to us. We've now blocked all attempts to do this phishing attack. Or they'll say, oh, it was legit, it's fine. But if you're ever suspect, there are resources here at WSU, and I think at most organizations have something like that that will tell you, yeah, bad, block it, good, don't worry about it, sort of thing. Most people are unaware of that, so file that one down as a tool for your tool.
I have an interesting story with them because I have actually sent a few spam messages to them. One attacker was trying to spoof the university, right? And I could tell through his link that he's trying to spoof the university. But I noticed that he tried to pretend a little too hard and is like, oh, if you see any suspicious things, you can send it to fake email that's actually.
Yeah, people get pretty good at customizing
And
how
I'm
they
like,
do it.
oh,
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Attacker, for reminding me that I should send this to WSU.
So my favorite is my dean. My dean has emailed me asking me to help him with their really important thing. Oh, yes, Mr. Dean, right? I respond. What can I do for you? I'm in a meeting and I need Amazon gift card right now. Can you go to the store and get me some? Yeah, I'm going to do that, right? No. But these things happen, right? And they get very targeted, right? It actually comes from an email address that they custom make to look like it might be your boss's email address. If you aren't paying close enough attention to it, it's urgent. All of a sudden, I'm going to go and do this thing. My boss asked me to. I was going to say no to their boss. Well, most people see that and they figure it out. They don't do anything. But it only takes one, right? It only takes one for that to be successful. I sometimes like to have fun and figure out what their game is, but that's just me and who I am. So, yeah.
I got one from my team.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Something or give me something. I don't remember what it was. I reported it to them. I don't think this was you. Yeah.
Yeah, but then a mass email goes out to everybody in the college that says, the dean is not asking you to do something in a hurry, which is fine. So, other things that you guys come up with. Yeah.
Another common one is 4 passwords.
Ooh, that's a good one. 4 password security. For example.
Default passwords, simple passwords, never changing passwords.
Right, so you don't have to tell me what your passwords are, but how many of you have used the same password in more than one place? How many of you have left that password unchanged for more than a year? All of them, almost regularly people do this. I will share with you what one of the things I've done, and I've encouraged my kids to do this, and they're starting to actually listen to me on this one, which is rare with my kids. LastPass. Using password management software allows you to have a unique, strong password that your computer remembers for you and it inputs it. And there's some stories I know, but it's way, way better than the alternatives of my one account got hacked with the same username, which is my email address, and password, and now I've got to remember the 1,500 different places I used it to go and change it. Otherwise, people are going to have to do this thing. Yeah.
I know the argument's getting around that if LastPass gets hacked, then they have every one of them. But if you look at statistically speaking, your passwords are far more likely to be leaked from other sources other than LastPass.
Yep.
Before I started using LastPass, I would say 60% of my passwords were in leaked databases.
Yeah.
But now none.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a risk there, but is the risk greater by not using it?
Right, and so the thing I do with LastPass is I use a strong password that I don't use anywhere else that I can remember. Right, that's the hard thing with those crazy hard passwords. Right, I gotta remember all these different things. My brain's not created to do it. 2-factor authentication is turned on, and I pay pretty close attention to anytime I get a message about it. So I feel pretty good about that. Two-factor authentication is another thing I would encourage to turn on whenever you can. Not perfect, right? There are stories of SMS being intercepted, right? Especially if you're a celebrity or something, right? Someone goes and begs and figures out who you are. That stuff happens so rarely that I am not terribly concerned about it. If I am so important that you're going to find a way to hack my cell phone number so you can get any sort of an SMS sort of thing, great. I've also found I like Google Authenticate. WSU makes me use Okta. There's other things that aren't SMS communication. Multi-factor authentication. Yep.
Fake portals.
Fake portals.
Users willingly giving their passwords to portals that look legit.
Mm-hmm. Right, phishing sites that are trying to convince you that, yeah, you should log in and it's not legit. Again, I think, yeah, I can't remember the last time I saw one that convinced me it was good, but they do show up phishing attacks and so forth.
Usually it's a function of how good you are or how good you are at web development. You know,
Yeah.
so if it looks prettier, people trust it more.
Absolutely. We're a very trusting society. Over here, one last one, I'll move on.
Plugging unknown USB drives.
Oh, yeah, here. I brought my PowerPoint presentation for you to class today. Can you please put this on your computer, please? Of course, you're the professor, I trust you. Or, you know, oh, I found this laying somewhere. Right? Not as people aren't quite as trusting, I think, as they used to be. But, oh, I wonder what's on it.
More willing to trust the professor than one I found laying somewhere.
Exactly, right? Who did it come from, right? If I show up to class and say, what's on here? Someone, I think he walked away, but he works at SEL. How many of you have been to SEL? Yeah, Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories. Are you guys touring SEL, Bernie?
During SEL on Thursday morning.
On Thursday morning. So I think as you show up, pay attention to this. They have machines that are not designed to scan your thumb drives before you enter their facilities. And so you're supposed to, if you have a USB drive that's left the facility before you bring it in, you're supposed to plug it in and have it scanned for that very reason. So that way you don't bring in some sort of a corrupted file, something that is going to cause issues inside of their manufacturing organizational facility that can be really, really bad. Yeah.
So I've got a question this afternoon. Everyone's going to be doing posters, and we're going to go over to what's the building?
Spark.
The Spark, and it's G10, right? Spark G10, and we're counting on people to bring their flash drives, put up their dark ones. So is that even allowed, or what's?
WSU has no policy against any thumb drive being put into one of these computers up front.
I was told to email it to myself, and that's what I'm gonna be doing.
What are you doing? Emailing it to yourself?
Yeah.
And then you log into Outlook and you can get access to whatever you set yourself.
So I would suggest emailing it to yourself, your PowerPoint, and then uploading it when you get there. You'll be able to log on to a big screen computer. That's hopefully will be there. Work with that room. Okay, so that's just
Don't have a flash drive.
the software that was mentioned. What's it called? LastPass? Did you write that?
LastPass.
LastPass.
There are multiple different ones. LastPass. What's that? Lots of password managers out there. LastPass is the one I use, but there are others. One of the fun things I learned from my research, I'll share with you, is one of the things that people like when you're asking users to, let's say, adopt the password management software, is if you give them a level of autonomy where you say, you know what, password management software is good, pick one of these 4 offerings and let them have some level of decision making. They respond a lot better to changing their behaviors than if you just say, thou shalt use this one thing, right? If people feel like they can evaluate a couple of choices and make one for themselves, they're more likely to follow that policy or engage in that secure behavior. So, all right, let's move on, or we're going to run out of time for the things. All right, so one of the main tenets of information security is what's referred to as the CIA triad. Stand for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And so when we're looking at how we're securing things, we need to ultimately decide what aspect of this are we going for. So confidentiality, this is the idea that only authorized users can gain access to what that information is. Certain parts of security, this is crucially important, that only those who should have access do have access. Integrity is the second arm of this, which is only authorized people can change information. Let's think about grades at your university. Who can change your grades? A professor, right? That's my job. I get to put your grades in. At some point, I can change them. I finally submit them. What if I submit them wrong? Can anyone else go and fix that? What's that? No, the dean can't go in and change them. Once they're submitted, the registrar can change them, and there is a process to document the grade change and hasn't been authorized. As a department chair, I have to authorize any of my faculty's grade changes, which, generally speaking, I'm like, yeah, you screwed up and you're admitting it, whatever, right? But if it looks funny that I can't, there's a layer of me being able to step in and say, that's weird. But yeah, so the registrar can change grades. Can you change your own grades? No, why not? Why can you not change your own grades? Conflict of interest, right? How many of you would have a 4.0 right now if you could change your grades, right? Who wouldn't? But who would believe the grades that we distribute from WSU if every single student could set their grades to whatever it is that they wanted, right? The value of that WSU degree or whatever university you're at would go down because there would no longer be integrity in what those grades meant, right? So only those who should have access to change those should. Availability is the whole idea that information is accessible when people request that information. My favorite example of this was last time I taught my cybersecurity course was last fall. It was Dead Week, right? Reading week. And we were doing presentations, and I had this creative idea that instead of like having every single student do their presentation, which like puts students to sleep, right? When you watch presentation after presentation, I had them all uploaded to Canvas. And I went through that morning and watched all of them before class, and I picked my favorites. And we were going to watch my favorite presentations and have some good takeaways so we could close up learning from these student projects at the end of the semester. Well, guess what? Canvas went down during that hour I was teaching class that day. So my entire lesson plan, exactly what I was going to do to teach a class, was no longer available, right? And it was in a security class. So instead of talking about students' presentations, we talked about what happens when you outsource some of your resources and the people you've outsourced, something that you expect to be available a certain amount of time goes down. What do you do? How do you deal with things, right? The risk of making outsource to cloud vendors, right? So it was an on-the-spot sort of, I threw my lesson plan out the window because something wasn't available. And so depending on what we're dealing with, certain aspects of confidentiality, integrity, and availability are going to be the important components that we're looking at when we're trying to ensure secure computing. Some challenges that we get as we look at Internet of Things. A big one is security, right? A lot of times when Internet of Things devices are created, security is an afterthought. Security is an afterthought in a lot of development, right? Security by design, hopefully, is something if you're into software design and so forth that you're beginning to talk about, that we're going to think about security from the beginning and not think about it as how do we bolt security onto something after we've already designed what it is that we're designing. But a big way that Internet of Things stuff has become available as we first got the idea that we could plug things into the internet was, let's just do this thing, it'd be really cool. And then after the fact, we're like, how do we lock that down? How do we secure that? Privacy, we're putting more and more data out there, more and more information. Who has access to that? Who's it shared with? Where's it going? What do you know about me, right? We saw this really big. This is an Internet of Things, but Amazon. How many of you are freaked out a little bit by what Amazon thinks you might want to buy? Or when you go to that website, all of a sudden that thing you were shopping for, Google happened to know about it. You're getting the Google ad saying, here's this thing, right? It's out there. If you're not careful, Google knows everything about me. At some level, I had to come to grips with that. I don't know how I did But hopefully it's not, every organization. Interoperability. How do things talk to each other? How do we get different devices communicating nicely? One of which we heard today was Apple, the AirTags talking with the Android devices. Apple and Android have historically never gotten along. The European Union at some level is going to force some changes on Apple that I think will be good for society. One of the main ones is that we should be able to charge all of our phones with the same charging port, right? Lightning versus the USB 3 or whatever. We're gonna, Apple is going to have to change because they're being told you can't force everybody to have all these different wires and dongles and so forth. Other issues of interoperability, just in sharing of information and getting things to talk to each other. Legal and regulatory compliance. One of the big issues that we face with technology, with security, is our legal space is far behind where our technology goes. And it takes a long, long time for legislatures to do anything to change the rules. So a lot of the stuff that we deal with the internet and having to comply is based on telephone laws. And trying to apply telephone laws to how things are communicated over the internet. And when you look at how decisions are made related to that, you have to squint really hard to see where they got to where they were getting. Well, one of the things I think is going to be really interesting to watch is what did Elon Musk most recently do? He's buying Twitter, maybe. Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen the news today. He's mad at the Democrats, so he's going to be a Republican. But he's buying Twitter. Why? Well, I think Twitter made him angry, and he said, "I'm so rich, I can buy it." I honestly don't know why Elon Musk does what Elon Musk does. But if we think about one of the things he said he's going to do, is he's going to allow Donald Trump to come back onto the Twitter platform. Right? I'm not going to take a side on whether or not that's true or not. But there's an argument arising over, is Twitter the new town square? Is social media the new town square? And what level of open freedom of communication can organizations have control over what's communicated that way? I don't know the answers to this. These are hard questions, but questions that our legal and regulatory compliance has not done a very good job of defining. The law that they rely on, I think, is the Section 420. Section 230, thank you, 420, something else. Right, so Section 230 basically said, we want a free and open internet, so we're not going to hold you, the social media platforms, responsible for what's communicating. You're not going to be like newspapers or some of these other sorts of things because you're just there as a middleman. And that's changing the nature of what social media is doing. So there's a real reluctance to remove Section 230 from the law. So a lot of interesting things. And how do we comply? How do we avoid getting in trouble? And then economic, social development issues. What are the rules for how I conduct business? How does that work from an organizational perspective? All challenges faced by Internet of Things. Last for this block that I'm going to touch on is issues related to people and some things that we can do about it. So one thing we could do is we can limit access of who can access what, right? This is actually an interesting challenge. It's pretty easy to limit access as people come into an organization, right? We're not going to give you access to something until you need it. The struggle that a lot of organizations face is what happens when my job role changes. And I had access I no longer need. Does it get taken away? And a lot of times there's not good processes in place and people still have access to things they shouldn't have access to. And then they can do things, or if their account's compromised, people get too much access. Separation of duties. This is a big one. So should the person who writes checks be the same person who authorizes those checks to be written? I say no. Most organizations say no, because the person who's writing the check, if they see the person who's authorized it is writing checks to their spouse or their best friend or whatever, they can raise questions, right? So we separate these duties in such a way to where issues can be caught if someone's trying to fraud an organization. Job rotation, having different people do the same sorts of, or different jobs gives them exposure to know how to do the different jobs. If you have one person who's always been the person who always does that one thing and nobody else does that one thing, then nobody's going to pick up on whether or not they're doing something nefarious. Mandatory vacations work very similarly. You have to use your vacation time. But I want to work. Some people say that, right? I'm a workaholic. I don't want to take my vacation time. I'd just rather be at work. I don't like to have fun, right? But no, you have to take your 4 weeks of vacation. It's mandatory. What it does is it actually forces you to step out of your role so somebody else can actually do your job for a little while. And if there's something going on from a nefarious perspective, it can get kicked out on. That's oftentimes, one of the reasons why vacations are mandatory. I also think for mental health, everybody should take vacation because it's just good for the soul. But that's another issue. But actually, as an aside, I honestly think that mental health is becoming a security issue that we should be paying attention to as well. Because if people are in poor mental health, they're going to potentially be more likely to make poor decisions. Security training. That helps people know what they should be doing. Part of that is going to be awareness, making them aware of what they're doing. Another thing that we see is social engineering, where the organization will purposely do some social engineering and see who falls prey to what's going on, whether it's a phishing attack or other sorts of things from that perspective. So different things we can put in place to ensure people are doing what they should be doing. All right, with that, it is 9:30. Let's go ahead and take a bio break. We might need 5 or 10 minutes for that, Bernie.
10 minutes probably.